When I think of the word family, I think of love, respect, safety, just being there no matter what, and loving them no matter what.
When kids are in foster care and they're going through these transitions, they're very, very vulnerable.
And kinship care is so important because it helps people stay within their families as opposed to being ripped away from them.
Kinship care provides a different support system and a different ability to provide normalcy when foster care does not.
Knowing that my mother was there to see them and they were with people who loved them, I think that should always take precedence over going with complete strangers.
I absolutely think it's important, though, to know your roots and where you come from.
Kids in foster care, they should always go with relatives first.
It really provides hope because it's saying my family didn't give up on me.
I was battling addiction. I did have to spend some time in jail. And when that happened, my kids, we wanted to keep them together, but sometimes it's hard for someone to take on 3 kids at once. So the family came together, everybody pitched in. The situation was already hard enough. I think being with grandma, being with their aunt, it's just like kind of like mom's away for a little bit. I think being with family made them feel like they were still a part of the family.
When the child welfare system has to be involved, kinship care is where we place with someone that the family considers to be their family.
For a long time, the culture of the system was to remove and place with someone who had already signed up to be a foster parent and to intervene in these kinds of situations. It's a different type of work to immediately start looking for that child's own family.
There's certainly a reason why we would prioritize kin. First and maybe foremost, outcomes are better.
I became a kinship caregiver at a very young age. I was only 24 years old, and I was notified through county that one of my siblings went into foster care. That was very difficult at the time because I didn't have the means to take care of her, and that was hard to make that decision. I actually bought my first house, moved out on my own.
Jonathan had a really big effect on who I am right now. I think that even with deciding to live with him versus just going into foster care, it put me on 2 different paths.
Kids who live with kinship caregivers have greater placement stability. They do better with their physical, social, and mental health outcomes.
Really, you can take any outcome, whether it's educational attainment, whether it's social and emotional health for youth. Really, truly, we see greater outcomes, more successful and positive outcomes when youth are placed with family and relatives.
They know who they're being placed with. It's an auntie, an uncle, or even a fictive kin. That lessens the trauma of being removed from their natural home.
My mother was addicted to drugs and my father just wasn't around. So really, my mom wasn't the best person to care for me, and so that's when my grandparents stepped in. So kinship is an important solution because it's a more natural pairing, someone staying within their family as opposed to being involved with a state system. And I was able to be with my grandfather, learn about my family, learn about their stories, and that's just something that I hold close to me. I think a lot of times if someone's in the system, they tend to not feel like they belong. And I feel like struggling with identity is something that they really have difficulties with.
Connect was started to make sure that kids did not grow up in foster care. What we've evolved to over these past many years is supporting kinship caregivers. Oftentimes, kids who experience foster care may be told or led to believe that there isn't anybody out there. On average, we find about 150 relatives per child, and our biggest genogram we've built is over 550 people who know the child by blood or fictive kin. These are family members, friends that know the young person and want to support them.
My best friend, Kayla, we've been best friends since the 7th grade. One of her family members is in a not so good situation and was wondering if me and Jess would like to take custody of the baby that she was getting ready to have.
With kinship, they look into any relationship to the biological parents and that child would have to see where the best placement would be. Me and Theo's mom are cousins, and we grew up together. She wanted Sam and Jess to have Theo if she couldn't.
The fact that Kayla's whole side of the biological family to Theo reached out and gave our name, it really means a lot.
We sometimes assume that foster parents would need additional supports around them and that kinship families wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense, right? Obviously, the kinship families need the same resources, same connection to services that others would.
We've always known that kids do better when they are with their family. It can't just be about where kids are placed. It also has to be about how are we supporting the families that are caring for their loved ones.
In terms of moving towards a kin-first culture, there's a bunch of things people need to look at. So is it easier or harder to place with family? And you want to pave the way for that to be easier. It does matter, I think, who's licensing kinship families. People are going to be reluctant to become licensed because the government coming into your home and taking a look around and assessing whether you would be an appropriate and safe placement. A second chance, the primary kinship care agency does that licensing for us.
I currently work for Second Chance Incorporated. We partner with Children, Youth, and Family Services in Allegheny County. Our mission is to strengthen and preserve healthy families for our youth. Our biggest program is Point of Contact. We call them our POC caseworkers. They ensure that we certify safe homes. We also do home visits on a monthly basis to ensure safety, well-being, and for any one-on-one supports that they may need.
So this has been a culture change for our agency as a whole. We are eliminating barriers to make those kinship placements happen.
To actually operationalize and fully realize this kin-first culture, it really requires the partnership of everyone touching the lives of youth in foster care. So that's everyone from the person setting the policy and writing that policy guidance to a county, to the county social worker, to the probation officer. Part of the investment in family finding, engagement, and support is allowing there to be subject matter expertise, specialization, staff that their only responsibility is family finding, engagement, and support, which thereby relieves some of the workload and burden from a social worker who's trying to do so much, which we think, again, will produce greater outcomes.
So if it wasn't for my grandfather, I would have been in the system. I would have been put up for adoption.
If I would have chose to just go into foster care, I don't even know if I would have graduated high school.
I don't think that he would have the chance to know his family had he gone somewhere else.
I would have fell through the cracks. I would have lost my children.
I think people would be more likely to provide kinship care if they understood the impact that it had on a young person. I don't think my grandfather in his mid-60s, planned on being a caregiver, but he saw a young child that needed help, and it was one of those things that was transformative in his life and in my life as well.
My hope for the future is just health and happiness, just us staying together as a family.
I really just feel blessed to have been able to be trusted to give her the support that she needed at that time and to see her grow. I'm just so proud of her.